go.
Today, my speech is going to be talking about free-range chickens. So what exactly does free-range mean? This speech is to kind of enlighten you on how chicken is processed, how meats are processed before we purchase them at the grocery store. I think you might find it very interesting. So what does free-range even mean? Why is it important? Well, this speech will enlighten you on a topic that some people may not even consider an issue when you go grocery shopping. I was at first intrigued, or I should say enlightened upon this topic when my daughter came home from school one day. She just graduated from high school last year and she was in agriculture classes, and she wanted to tell me and her father about how horrible that Tyson chicken was, after some things she had watched in school, how they were determined as one of the worst chicken nugget producing companies. And I'm going to get into that, of why that is. I would like to let you guys, as a class know, or audience know, realize that consumers need to understand what they're purchasing and how terminology regarding our food purchases can be very misleading. The term organic is very key as far as misleading. I'm not saying that organic is wrong, so don't take that. But a lot of people don't understand the true meaning when they say organic. They think it's directly from the farm and there's no antibiotics, there's no GMOs, which are genetically modified organisms in that. And that's not always the case. We as a consumer, need to clearly understand by labels and not be misled of what we're purchasing and putting into our bodies and our families' bodies. So this speech, again, is not to persuade you to become vegan or to persuade you that, chickens and cows and pigs are treated horribly and we should not eat them. It's just to let you know that it is key that we as a consumer need to understand more about how food is processed before we put it on our plates. So let's define free range. Free range, according to the USDA, is that chickens are allotted so much free roam time on the outside world or in the grassy area to be able to peck and eat. Well, the USA doesn't, they only require 5 minutes a day. They have a small open door to the outside for these chickens to be let outside. And sometimes this area is not even have grass or vegetation, it's all just gravel. So the USDA, again, doesn't regulate that. They just say as long as you have an opening for them to go out. Well, a lot of the chickens can't all get through the door because it's so small and they only have 5 minutes to do that. So that is a huge concern right there. That was an eye-opener for me. These chickens are sometimes housed in sweltering sun and their cages are over top of manure piles. So again, these are the chickens that we could be possibly eating at the grocery store. Turkeys in a farmland in Maryland were housed in freezing cold with no shelter at all. Free-range turkeys' beaks are surgically removed at 5 days old. And the reason that they do that is they mutilate them is that so that they will not peck each other. Because again, that's their natural instinct, is to peck. And if they're in a small contained area and not able to go outside, they actually physically once they debeak them, they're no longer to do that and hurt the other chickens, turkeys, what have you. This shows the turkeys that were also put into, now turkeys are also kept in a confined area, not so much a cage, but they're in buildings that are considered cage-free. Again, that's kind of the same picture, but kind of give you an idea there. That's considered cage-free, but they are actually in crowded buildings that have toxic gases and disease microbes. Chickens do love sunlight, and so do turkeys, and this is just a simple fact that they are denied. Free-range, cage-free, and organic chickens are hung upside down with their legs thrown into a transport. Now this could be they're transported that way alive, which again is animal cruelty, or also too they once they get them ready for slaughter, they may leave them there so they bleed out, which again is kind of disturbing, so I apologize for that. But it's the fact, it's the way that it's done. So free range, this is all according to the Poultry Concerns. There is a community out there that is actually trying to help with this situation. Male chickens or roosters, now not all of them, but some of them are actually killed as soon as they are hatched. And this is due to that they have no value because they do not lay eggs. Some of them are suffocated in trash bags, electrocuted, or gassed or ground up. Organic is thought by consumers to be defined as that they're not given any antibiotics, but that is not necessarily true because farmers determine how many antibiotics are actually injected into the chickens. So they may have a few put in there for disease issues, but organic gives you the impression that nothing's ever done to the animals. They're also fed a vegetarian diet, which is with absolutely no GMOs, which is the genetically modified organisms. So again, that is still not a true fact for consistency. Labels are key for consumers to know what they are adjusting into their bodies. The FDA and USDA to ensure that all chickens are weaned off antibiotics before they are sent to market. But there's no regulation and no testing done that is true fact before they're sent to the market for purchasing by the consumer. But according to the World Health Organization, some of these antibiotics can cause a superbug for humans to ingest. So as we're eating the chickens from the grocery store, we could also, if that particular chicken has been ingested with certain antibiotics, be causing us to have deadly illnesses. Consumers should be looking for a new label that is out there that is coming by a nonprofit organization called Certified Humane Raised and Handled. This is a label that will appear on all meat, pork, and chicken. This is a nonprofit organization dedicated to improving the lives of farm animals for food production, from birth to slaughter. This is also approved by the ASPCA, and it's also researched by veterinarians and scientists. So there again, you have a little credibility of how these animals and chickens and meat is being taken care of. At the end of the day, at the end of my speech, to conclude, we are, as consumers, are probably going to buy what we want and not think about it because to us it's just ground up meat when we're at the store. But I just really wanted you guys to have an inside, enlightened information about how the whole process is done. After doing this research, immediately when I read how horrible these animals are mutilated, I thought, oh, I should go vegetarian. But I know that too will pass because that is just in the moment. But again, I just wanted you guys to understand kind of how everything is processed and how things are actually not always as they appear. PETA, which is another source I didn't use very much because my daughter is a big, you shouldn't listen to PETA because they are one-sided, which is true. But they said really the only way to stop this animal cruelty is to become vegan. Now, again, that could be an option for you, and that's not a problem. But again, I hope this speech wasn't too overwhelming and too much information. I just was really surprised myself after doing some research of how horribly some of these animals are treated, and I understand that's bad, but also too, I think at the end of the day, I was very surprised at how some of them were treated, and we are actually ingesting and being the recipients of some of the manure and antibiotics and things that these animals are exposed to. So thank you for your time, and I hope you learned a little bit from the speech.